Rink-wide Vancouver, pre-game, post-game, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat back with you once again with another edition of the pregame show as the Canucks get ready for a back-to-back Colorado, then Edmonton this weekend, JPat, and a little bit of an all-star flavor in tonight's tilt.
Yeah, star power really the theme of the weekend when you think of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl coming this way on Saturday, but before then, yeah, it's Nathan MacKinnon, it's Mikko Rantanen, it might be Cale Makar, although he didn't play the other night with an upper body injury, so he's listed as questionable, and of course, Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat. Horvat, McKinnon, Rantanen all named to the All-Star game last night. Makar and Pettersson had already been voted in, or at least named by the National Hockey League. So yeah, you're looking at a whole bunch of All-Stars, and for the Vancouver Canucks, back-to-back finish to this 12-game gauntlet that we've been talking an awful lot about. And of course, it hasn't gone well for the Canucks, 2-8 through the first 10 games of this tough stretch of the schedule.
Let's get to the lineup change, which is presented by Delaney's OK Tire out there on Fraser Highway in Langley. Looked like we were going to have a coaching change this morning, JPat.
Well, and I think we all know where that's headed, but to his credit, Bruce Boudreau looked like he was maybe having a little fun with the media, kind of joked around that he came out and he met the media and said, you guys thought I was gone. Again, there's just so much noise around the coach and around this organization right now, but Boudreau wasn't on the ice for a full morning skate. So he is still the coach as far as we know. It looks like he'll be behind the bench tonight, and we'll see if he's the coach behind the bench on Saturday night as well. But the reality is it certainly looks like Bruce Boudreau is coming to the end of his tenure here as the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Sounds like he's going to make one change among his 18 skaters. Travis Dermott, who was injured out on that road trip last week, looks like he draws back in, and Kyle Burroughs, who had a tough night the other night against Tampa, looks like he will come back out. But the forward group appears to be the same, and no confirmation on a goaltender, but I would imagine it's Colin Delia, who came in relief of Spencer Martin. And Colin Delia was the guy between the pipes when the Canucks beat the Avs in a recent home game just after the New Year.
That's right. They did that 2 weeks ago in one of their best efforts of the season. Going to want to back that up tonight against the Avs.
Yeah, and it's funny because it was one of their better efforts of the season. And even in saying that, they fell behind 2-0, if you'll recall. And then from there, they rallied. They had a frantic flurry in the second period, scored a bunch of goals in a hurry. Kuzmenko had a couple, Brock Besser, and then JT Miller sealed the deal into an empty net. They were impressive in the third period. Once they got up 3-2, the Canucks certainly were the better team the rest of that night. And we'll see if they can do it again here against Colorado tonight.
Yeah, I want to bear down on those chances that they got against Tampa Bay. And also a little bit of production from that fourth line. The bottom six guys would be nice.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Tampa the other night. I know it was a 4-0 hockey game, and yet territorially, the Canucks played all right. They had 18 shots in the first period, and that's where the bearing down comes into this. Make the most of a couple of those opportunities, because every time Tampa went down the ice, they seemed to score, and good teams with a high level of execution, they can do that. Colorado certainly fits that bill as well, the way that they're playing right now. So, yeah, when the Canucks get some opportunities, they have to cash in. And, of course, once again, and we've said this so many times on these pregame shows, they've got to find a way to tighten up defensively.
Let's focus in on the Avs for just a moment because they're starting to find their groove right now.
Yeah, and if you remember the game here a couple of weeks ago, Alexander Georgiev with the stick smash over the crossbar after Brock Besser's goal, there was some frustration at that point because I think the reality of the situation was they were below the playoff bar and they were kind of scuffling along. They weren't playing particularly well. A couple of weeks has changed their fortunes and their outlook. They come in here on a 3-game roll. They've won 3 in a row. They've outscored those opponents 17-4. It included a 7-0 drubbing of the Ottawa Senators on the weekend, and then they beat Detroit. And then a good win going into Calgary the other night, and they beat the Flames by a score of 4-1, and that was without Cale Makar. So they come in on a 3-game win streak. Their best players are stepping up. They're playing well, and I think that they can sense that a change is in the works here as far as their playoff positioning. They enter this night still below the playoff bar, so they've got work to do. By percentage points, they are one of the top 8 teams in the Western Conference, so they've got games in hand, but a win tonight would match them with Calgary on points, but because they've played fewer games than the Flames, the Colorado Avalanche would spend the night above the playoff bar. So that's where they want to be. I think they will be a playoff team when all is said and done, but they're not there yet. They want to use this as a stepping stone to a spot above the playoff bar tonight.
And of course, All-Stars Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar have struggled with injury this year. Mikko Rantanen has taken the weight of Colorado on his shoulders. He's having himself a fantastic season.
He is, and he's one of those guys that I think gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but it was nice to see that he was voted in by the fans to the All-Star game. It'll be the second time that he takes part in one of those showcases. 31 goals, and dare I say kind of quiet 31 when you think of what Connor McDavid's doing and David Pastrnak, and we've spent so much time focusing on Bo Horvat here in Vancouver, but kind of quietly and without Nathan MacKinnon for the better part of the month of December, Rantanen really carried this hockey club and continues to deliver. As I said, 31 goals, 56 points. He's tied for fourth in the NHL in goals. So he has emerged as an elite sniper. He scored the last time the Avs were here, so the Canucks are certainly going to have to be wary when Mikko Rantanen is out there on the ice.
Artturi Lehkonen was a big pickup for the Avs last year. He's red hot right now, 5 goals in his last 3 games.
Yeah, and again, we talk about star power on this Avs team. He's in that next layer. I don't know if he's a star, but he's certainly a solid performer and a nice addition. And all of a sudden, he's holding the hot hand. 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals more the other night against Calgary. So 5 goals in his last 3 games. He's a guy, again, that they spread their offense around. He's one that the Canucks are going to have to pay attention to. And he's benefited from, they made the trade for him, came in, was a seamless fit there, and is getting a chance to play higher in the lineup than perhaps some people thought, but he's carrying his weight here, and right now, he's a guy that's finding the back of the net, so he's going to want to continue that goal-scoring streak against the Canucks.
You mentioned his name earlier, but Cale Makar looks like he could be questionable for tonight. He didn't face off against the Flames on Wednesday.
No, first game of the season that he has missed, and we know that they are a better team with Cale Makar. They're still a pretty good team, even if they're without players, and they had to get by without Nathan MacKinnon for a while, and there have been other injuries. Really, injuries have been sort of the story of this season for the Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champs last spring. And again, you can't defend if you don't make the playoffs, but they've had so many guys out of their lineup. And Cale Makar, it's not believed to be serious, but they're in Seattle tomorrow. Would they save him for a bigger, tougher opponent, or at least test? Maybe another night's rest. So we just don't know as we record this, but Cale Makar was not a healthy scratch, but he missed his first game of the season the other night against Calgary. Avs were still able to get by without him. So we'll see if he's available to Jared Bednar for this contest tonight.
Let's get to the stat that stands out, which is presented by Jason Hominick at jason.mortgage.
Yeah, and we talk about the Colorado Avalanche coming in here on a 3-game win streak. Well, hey, guess what? The Vancouver Canucks have a chance to just get the brooms out and sweep the season series from the defending champs. This kind of would be the Canucks Stanley Cup, if you will. Yeah, I mean, there haven't been enough wins for the Vancouver Canucks, but somehow, some way, they were able to grind out a 4-3 victory in Denver back in November. And we talked about the 4-2 win here in early January. So second trip through Vancouver this month for the Colorado Avalanche. They don't want to get swept by the Vancouver Canucks, but yeah, that might surprise some people. This is it for their meetings, and if the Canucks can come out on top tonight, they'll go 3 for 3 against the defending champs. So there's a stat that stands out to me. Brought to you by Jason Hominick. If you're in the market for a mortgage, do yourself a favor. Reach out to our mortgage guy, Jason Hominick. He's here to help. He wants to talk to you. They'll talk some hockey with you as well, but reach out at jason.mortgage.
Let's get to my best bets, presented, of course, by Bodog. Elias Pettersson's cooled down a little bit recently. Now he's getting his chances, but you know us on Rinkwide, we don't like to talk about chances. We want to see results. I think we're going to get one tonight. Elias Pettersson finding the back of the net, anytime goal scorer at plus 155.
Yeah, I like that one. And you know what? I'm going to dovetail off your best bet right into my do something, because for the reasons you mentioned, Elias Pettersson just feels due. This guy has been shooting the puck at a wild rate here in the new year. In fact, you go back, his last 8 games, he's got 40 shots on goal. 40! Nobody else on the team has more than 26 in that time, and he has 1 goal. And it came in Tampa late as they pushed out of the road trip. Now, we thought he had scored in Florida as well, and then after the fact they changed it, we thought that was his power play goal. Ended up that Bo Horvat got a piece of it. But Elias Pettersson, 1 goal in his last 8 games on those 40 shots. That's 2.5% for a shooting percentage. So that's why I say, it's just a little bit of a cold stretch. He's been productive. He's got a point per game over those 8, but just 1 puck in the back of the net for Elias Pettersson. So we know how skilled he is, how talented he is, and what he means to this hockey club. It wouldn't surprise me if this was the breakout game. Of course, he's had 2 5-point nights. I'm not going to predict that, but in his career, he's had 4 5-point nights, and one of them was against the Colorado Avalanche way back in his rookie season. So a little bit of history there. The Avs are aware of Pettersson. They know what he can do. The Canucks certainly know what he's capable of. And let's see if Elias Pettersson is a guy that can rise to the challenge here as the Canucks try to bounce back from their loss to the Tampa Lightning the other night when they take on Colorado here. Elias Pettersson, he leads his team in scoring, but has gone a little bit quiet in the goal-scoring department. I'm looking at him to do something here on this Friday night.
And we want you to listen to our post-game podcast. Of course, we'll have that for you available as quick as we can after the final horn tonight. And the Canucks will try to break out the brooms against the Colorado Avalanche. Small victories this year for the Canucks. This would be a big one, though, against the reigning Cup champs. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.